The fly we're going to be tying today is called the Crazy Dave. It's a variation of a French nymph. This is going to be tied on a size 10 Hanak Jig Superb hook with a 2.8mm tungsten bead. Thread is a UTC 170 denier. This is a black. And we'll get started. So first I'm going to wrap my thread all the way to the back end and just cut it off. I've already done it in this case. Then I'm going to take some golden pheasant tail right here, and I'm just going to take just a few fibers. You can take coq de lion, or you can take a similar sort of a looser fiber. I'm just going to pinch about 3 or so off here, and I'm going to tie it in roughly 3/4 the length of the hook shank. Tie it in off the back here. You want to make sure that these fibers are sitting pretty much straight off of the back of the hook here. So you can take a second, get that adjusted. It takes just a little bit of practice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie these tag ends all the way to the front, which will just help me build up just the slightest bit of a body. So I'm going to tie this off here. So I've got this finished. I think I've got 3 fibers sitting in here right now. Next I'm going to tie in some of Senyo's Fusion Dub. This happens to be in the Fishmas color. I can link to their website below. This is going to be in a red and white tinsel color. I just think it gives it a little bit of a fishy color, a little bit of flash. So I'm just going to take a little pinch of these fibers here, and I'm just going to spin it onto the hook, onto the line here. I'm going to make a nice and tight dub. I don't like a particularly loose dub, especially on these French nymphs, because I like to keep a bit of a low profile when they're in the water. So I'll just slide that dub to the front here. I'm just going to make a couple nice tight wraps heading up to the front of the fly, and try and build a little bit of a taper onto this body here. You can reapply as needed. Just a little. Just make sure you don't overdo it. We don't want to make this fly too dense. Otherwise it just won't float naturally in the water. So we're just going to have this tied up here. Bring it all the way to the front. You can see there's a little bit of this red flash in there. See if we can get that in focus more. It's just a little bit of red in with that white dub. I'm going to build it up all the way to the head, using a fairly tight dub. So once I'm up to the head here, you can see that tungsten bead sometimes needs to be twisted a little bit. So I'll just twist that around till it pops down. Perfect. So once I'm at this point, I'm going to grab some, this is an SLF dub, which happens to be in pink, made for Czech nymphs. So just going to grab some of this right here. It's a fairly loose fiber spacing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a dubbing loop. You can even wrap your bobbin back over to create a bit of a tighter loop. Separate those fibers nicely. Make sure you don't overdo it. I mean, you can always clip it off if needs be. Just put that in there, and we're just going to spin it away. Just make sure you get a nice tight dubbing loop. Nothing worse than a really loose dubbing loop that likes to run away from you. So I'm going to start wrapping that around. I'm going to brush these fibers backwards as I'm wrapping it around. Not going to take too many wraps, maybe 3 or 4 depending how colorful you want this collar on the fly. I'm going to tie it off, a couple of loose wraps over top and then one tight one. You can cut this off right here on the top. Alright, so now once I've done that, I'm just going to brush some of these spare fibers loose. There's always going to be a couple that don't stick into that dubbing loop. I'm just going to dub this thread just a little bit. Since this thread is the black color, it just does happen to show through a little bit. So that'll just cover up some of the coloration that you're seeing. Once you're done that, you'll grab your whip finishing tool, Give it a nice whip finish. You can cut your thread off here. And I just like to put a dab of hardest hull onto it. It doesn't have to be much, just pull the head back, just dab a little bit on the top there, which will help seal it in. And next up, I'm going to grab one of these. This actually is a sulco brush from dentistry work, but it can be a toothbrush or a dubbing comb or something along those lines. And I'm just going to brush some of these pink collar fibers downwards, and you can see pretty soon I've got a bit of some structure going on here. It is a little over long, so I'm just going to take some scissors and cut through that there. Gives it a bit of an unnatural edge, so you'll just have to brush it back, but you're ended up with a fairly natural looking collar that sticks out a little bit. So there you have it. This is the Crazy Dave in a size 10. This can go up all the way to 16. I just like that tungsten bead because it gets the fly down and it sinks it quite quickly. Alright, thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.